When Harry Met Sally, a photography podcast, would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of the lands and waters in which we are recording this podcast on today. As people who work with artists seeking meaning and knowledge through storytelling, we recognise the first peoples of this nation have been doing so for over 60,000 years. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging across Australia. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
None of this is possible without the fantastic help we've had from
Collart. Thank you so much for the support on providing your pod suites. Nikon Australia, incredible ambassadors for the photography industry.
And Ted's Camera Store, also great ambassadors, have been around forever and are doing wonderful work. And A&L Artistic Framers, who have been framing photography and art for as many years as I can think. Thank you all so very much.
Hi, welcome back to When Harry Met Sally.
Hey, welcome back, Harry. How are you, darling?
I'm good. How are you, Sally?
I am absolutely fantastic.
Good.
Yes. And this next guest is somebody that we've both known for a super, super long time.
Yes.
And I'd love to introduce Jon Webb to When Harry Met Sally.
Hi, Jon.
Webb. Woohoo!
Hi, girls. How are we?
Fantastic. So we've both got a pretty long history with you, don't we? So
I would say so,
yeah. So tell us about the Jon Webb story. So where did it all start, Jon?
Where did it all start?
Well, it was back in England, right?
Yep. I was grew up in a place called Reading, which is sort of 40 miles west of London.
Yeah.
I was at secondary school, and we were going on a school trip to the Forest of Dean.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
And so, I was pretty excited about that. And then my dad said, well, why don't you take my camera? And he handed me his camera, which was a rangefinder camera, a German Barrett, it was called.
Wow, okay.
Beautiful. And as soon as I kind of held that, I kind of thought, oh, this is kind of nice, And it came in like a brown leather case, and I opened the case and, the dials. And so he gave me like a quick, 10-minute lesson. And he's an engineer. He wasn't a photographer. But, and it kind of stuck, He said, you line the focus up this way and this is your aperture and that's the hole and this is the shutter speed and that's the time. And if you make the hole bigger, you make the time faster. And it kind of stuck.
And how hard can it be?
Right?
Yeah.
So off I went to the Forest of Dean and shot a roll of film.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to say that I was student of the, like my project got given, best student or something.
Okay. Well, we'll go
and
with that because no one's going to.
How good is that?
Say no. Look at you.
And took some good photos. And so from then, so that's high school. So that would be year, what do you call it here? Third year. So year 9, I guess.
Yep.
And then after you finished high school, you do what's called sixth form college. And the sixth form college I went to was in Henley on Thames. And they had just introduced photography as a course, an A-level course. Nice. So I started that.
Timing.
Great timing.
Photograph the rowers?
Yep,
yes.
Photograph lots of rowers.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
From there I did 2 years of that, passed my A-level, and then I had a brief flirtation with the Royal Marines and as an officer training.
Oh, no, did not know.
But
amazing.
It was a very brief flirtation.
Hours? Are we talking or weeks?
No. It was officer training. But at the end of it, I think they realised.
Did anybody know that about Jon
everyone
Webb?
realise?
I think everyone realised.
What are we unveiling? This is fantastic.
Jon Webb wasn't built for war.
That's great.
So off to art college he went.
Oh, amazing.
And did a two-year bachelor of photography, as it was called then, at Berkshire College of Art and Design, which was awesome. And, even though I sort of learnt the basics at sixth form college and, you know, how a DSLR camera works and technique and darkroom practices and that stuff. It hadn't really sort of touched on creativity so much.
You honed your craft there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, being at an art college, you're kind of surrounded by people. So, you know, the conversation is always kind of artsy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as part of that course, you had to do what's called work experience, is it?
Yeah.
Work experience.
Like a placement kind of thing. Yeah.
And you had 2 weeks, and I managed to secure 1 week at a place called Holborn Studios in London, and another week with a photographer called Chris Kramer. And first, and I loved it. I loved it all, and I embraced it. And the first week at Holborn Studios was the biggest studio in Europe at the time.
Wow.
And it was like a collection of 10, 12 studios. And
as in like 10 or 12 photographers working there, or
no,
like little
all high
studios? Yeah.
So
wow.
any European photographer coming into London would book a studio at Holborn.
Yeah.
And so Holborn had like 4 or 5 what they called studio assistants.
Yeah.
And then the photographers would come in. Sometimes they'd have their own assistant as well, but you'd help out.
Yeah.
So I did that for a week, and then I worked with Chris Kramer for a week, and he was sort of an up-and-coming fashion photographer. And then shortly after, Holborn offered me a job. So I went back to college, and I spoke to my favourite lecturer, John Carter, who was an ex-fashion photographer, and he said, take the job.
Yeah.
I'll get you through. Because I was still worried about getting the diploma and, you know, not that of course, mattered. But so I had to do 1 day of college a week and 4 days in London. So I worked at Holborn, which, was an amazing experience, and worked with, you know, without dropping names, but David Bailey and Herb Ritts and
drop names.
Drop names.
Drop them, baby.
Absolutely. Like, wow.
all my, you know,
heroes.
Yeah,
So
all my heroes.
you were sort of based at the studio, and then all the photographers that were coming in, you were kind of supporting and assisting, and
yes,
oh my
as well as
gosh.
painting studios, as well as looking. It was 3 stories, all underground.
Yeah.
It was enormous. Sorry,
So
bless
sorry,
you.
I just sneezed.
Bless you.
Bless you. Bless me.
it's-
Sorry.
It was
This is-
quite enormous.
Yeah. Oh,
and
wow.
it was.
Got
but it
to
was
be like a kid in a lolly shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. And how long did you do that for, John?
I did that for a year, and then.
This is so. Can I just pause and pivot for a minute?
course.
Because I just because I didn't know this about you, but when I first started my photography career, I had the same experience, but at decent exposure, which you owned and ran. So we'll get to that a little bit later because I know we're at your origin story. But I just think this is like I love that. Like you did the same thing I did, you know, and I did it in your studio and you did it in this
But Herb
other
Ritts
one.
wasn't there.
Herb Ritts was not there, but Jon Webb was.
John Webb was. Did David Bailey pop in?
Anyway.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and look, it was a bit like a kid in a lolly shop, you know. I mean, going up to the big smoke anyway, you know, but then walking into this studio and literally being surrounded by all these, you know,
Amazing people.
Great.
amazing photographers. Actually, so talking about, so the first day that I worked at Holborn Studios proper, the guy that was running it said, go into Studio 4 and just say hello, make yourself known, and then, you know, see if they want a cup of tea or, you know, because Holborn had its own restaurant and bar and, you know, the whole bit. So I went in and there was a photographer and a couple of girls and around and, you know, said, hi, I'm John and, you know, how are you? And,
Yeah, from Reading.
and, you know, can I get anyone a cup of tea? And, oh, yeah, that'd be lovely, thanks, you know. So off I went and then I came, obviously got the tea, came back into the studio and the photographer was just setting up on his own. And he said, oh, just go in there and give the girls their tea, you know. And so I knocked on the door and they said, oh, you know, come in. And I walked in with this tray of tea and there were two girls there topless. And I've dropped, it was a page 3 shoot. I don't know if you remember the page 3 sun shoot. I've dropped the tray. And one of the girls has turned around and said, is this your first time, love?
Great. Oh, that's fantastic.
Amazing.
Very good. So obviously I stayed.
Yeah.
And then, so I was there for about a year. And then the Chris Kramer, the guy I'd done the second week,
yeah,
he rang me up and said, would I like a job? And at the time, he just shot the Wham album cover.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so he'd started to sort of take off.
Wow.
And I was like, you know, Holborn were a bit sort of like, really? You're just starting to kind of make it? And I was like, no, I was just young and, you know. And so I went and worked for Chris Kramer. And as I say, he sort of just started to take off and we were basically shooting every day. He was doing a lot of editorial fashion and he was doing, we used to have like the mail order catalogues. You remember that was big?
Yeah.
And I think in the year that I worked for him for a year, and in that year we spent 20 weeks overseas.
Wow.
That was amazing.
So
it was amazing.
Like around Europe or like
Yes.
over like
Around Europe
yeah.
mainly, because obviously you sort of follow the chase the sun sort of thing, which you don't get a lot of you didn't back then get a lot of sun in England.
in England.
And well, actually, beyond Europe, my favourite place was the Seychelles.
Oh.
And we did 3 weeks in the Seychelles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
With
experience.
Me and Chris and 3 models.
Oh, it's so life is hard.
Hello.
So, like obviously you worked really hard, and you did these 2 weeks, and you got offered work in both places.
I know, right?
So, what do you think was it? Like, were you just going for it? Were you committed? Was your work ethic really good? Like, was there something that you were just think stood you out?
I definitely think I wanted a job in photography. And I don't know if that was because I'd failed at the Marines or whatever, so I hadn't gone to uni or Polytechnic like a lot of my friends. I thought I was going to join the Royal Marines. And then when that didn't work out, and I don't know, I sort of also the art college that I went to, because I'd taken a year out to do the Royal Marines, a lot of people I knew were in that second year.
Yeah.
So they'd sort of started to talk about the industry and they'd done their 2 weeks placement and they were, you know, so I kind of, and I think one of them actually was working at Holborn when I did, I can't remember that exactly. But anyway, so there was a bit of definitely a push for me to, I didn't go there thinking that I would get a job, but I was determined to give it as good a shot.
And what's interesting too, John, is you were listening to yourself. You sort of went, right, no, I've done a year at Holborn. This is a new challenge. So I'm going to do a year with Chris and I'm going to travel to 20 countries and I'm going to hang out. And then obviously you're only there for a year as well. And so did you have somebody that you were talking to throughout this time? Was it your dad or somebody that was helping you? Or was it just a gut thing that you just went, no, I'm ready now. I can do this. I'm going out. I'm changing.
I'm going to say it's a gut thing.
Yeah. Good.
Because Mum and Dad were like, when are you going to get a proper job?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Are they still saying it?
I saw a talk the other night and the person said something about, because I just am trying to convince my parents my whole life that what I do in photography is a real job. And I was like, aren't we all?
Yeah, hello.
Right. So a bit of that. I was a little bit kind of, I was young and stupid as well.
Cocky too. So you had that courageousness, ballsiness, dare I say.
Yeah, maybe. And
that's...
I don't know if I would... I don't think it was courage. I think it just was second nature.
Yeah, yeah, good.
But I didn't go, well, because actually at the end of the year, Chris actually move me on.
Yeah.
Oh.
And at the time I was devastated.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, it was, I always respect people that move. And I was probably a bit comfortable, and he was probably a bit comfortable.
So as in he just said you can do more, like
Yeah,
you should be doing
you
your
know,
own thing.
and
now.
that is such an important role to play as a photographer. When I was Rick Wallace's assistant after a few years, he said to me, "You are still living at home. You've never travelled the world. You've got to go off and see the world, and come back and then see what happens." And he pushed me out the door as well, and I'll always be grateful for that, because the reason I asked about was it a gut thing. You meet many people that just get very comfortable in what they're doing, and which is that's their choice, but it's also really exciting to be going, what new challenges are out there, and that's why we're creative, right? To go out there and. I feel that. So
Yeah.
I can see where you're going. So when Chris pushed you out the door...
So Chris sort of pushed me out the door. I was like, oh, okay, what are we going to do now then?
Marines is off the list.
And I sort of thought, okay, well, sure, I could go back. I could go and freelance assist. Like obviously would have had quite a good reputation. Or I could go and be a photographer. But that feels like 3 years of hard work before you kind of make any money. And, I'm 21 years old, and that doesn't feel right. And probably I was a bit scared. And, living in London is expensive when you're an assistant. Right? I was earning £100 a week, and my rent was £55 a week. So,
You were skinny.
Yeah, right. And so I thought I'd kind of picked up a little bit of a travel bug with being with Chris. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to travel. I'm just going to go and travel for a couple of years and just, see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about photography. I'm just going to go. And so I did a little bit of travelling around Europe, and then I just so happened to be sharing a house with someone in London that was Australian, and she said, if ever you need a place to stay, you can come and stay with me in Melbourne. And that was it. I was
Okay.
okay. See you in April.
If they're dumb enough to say it, you got to do it. Yes.
So I arrived.
Did you marry her?
No, it wasn't that kind of relationship.
Okay.
And so, I arrived in Melbourne, Australia in 1988, October 88. And
I left Australia to go to London in July 88.
there you
you go.
Wow.
Yep. So where did you land in Melbourne? Where were you staying? Go on.
Now there's a story.
Go on. I want to know the suburb. No, I don't.
So I got to Melbourne, and, it still is an airport in the middle of a paddock, right? Yeah. And she'd come to pick me up in a taxi, and as we were getting closer and closer to Melbourne, there was just a heavy police presence. And I was like, whoa, this is like the Wild West. Like, and the closer we got, and she was like, yeah, it's not usually like this. And I'm like, coming from England where you don't see policemen with guns and, there's police everywhere. Anyway, so the place I was staying with
was Walsh Street.
No, Walsh Street.
Oh my gosh.
South Yarra, and it was the morning after the Walsh Street killings.
Murders. Yeah. I'm fascinated by them.
Wow.
Oh, John, that's fantastic.
Welcome to Melbourne.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It had to be that or Hoddle Street.
Yeah,
my
Walsh
goodness
Street.
me.
Wow.
And such a beautiful part of town. Oh my God.
So she was living there, but then she. Can't remember. We must have.
And you thinking?
She moved to Fitzroy.
Don't tell my parents where I'm living. Don't tell my parents where I'm living.
She moved to Fitzroy, and so I went there for a little bit. But I was always going to travel, and then I backpacked for, around the country for best part of a year.
And had you, financially, made savings to do that, or were you photographing on the way? Like, were you
I think I arrived
doing
with
work
like
on the way?
$300 or something. I was no idea. It was a working holiday visa,
yeah.
so you were allowed to work.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do any photography. I might have done a couple of little jobs, photography, but mostly
picking up
bricklaying
whatever.
and bar work and whatever, fruit picking, all of the classics.
Classic.
And
backpacker stuff.
got back to Melbourne in the next year, September '89, and happened to be living or going out with an Aussie girl, and thought, I might see if I can stay.
Yeah, wow.
And so I got my permanent residency, and then actually as soon as I got my permanent residency, I went home for a year.
Yeah.
Just to make sure and obviously see everyone, because I was only supposed to be coming out here for 6 months. And then after that year, it was like, no, we're going back to Melbourne. And so I went back to Melbourne, and that's when I started looking for photography work. So I'd been a good maybe 2 years out of photography.
But, how wonderful that you could just blow it out your ass and do whatever it was that you wanted to do and have fun. And I think that's really important, rather than from just going from study to study to study, go out and experience life. And as we get older, that's so important, life experiences. And, it's the difference between wanting to work with you that's travelled and done a bit of bricklaying and is really handy with painting, and as opposed to somebody else that's just come straight out and hasn't done anything. So it's fantastic. I love all that. It's what we did, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And then where did you end up?
So then I basically traipsed around all the studios in Melbourne and looking for assisting work.
Yeah.
And went to Heaven Pictures and the Lighthouse and well, you'd know them all, and Decent Exposure, and and I had quite a good CV because even though I hadn't officially assisted David Bailey,
still
on the CV.
I made him a cup of tea.
Embellishing. We all embellish our CDs.
made him a cup of tea, so that's okay. And
so I got I worked with some great photographers and there were some awesome Melbourne photographers. Sorry.
Did you realise at the time how great that was, working with those photographers?
Yeah, no, I did.
Yeah.
It was, and that last year that I'd been in, that I'd assisted Chris Kramer, it was pretty much a 300mm lens at f2.8.
That was it?
The whole time.
Wow. Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
That was his style.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And, and then you come to Melbourne and, these photographers, George Apostolides and, Paul Torcello, Lou D'Angelo, Jim McFarlane, yada, 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 were real, they could do
Craftsmen.
anything.
Yeah.
And so and I loved assisting.
Yeah.
Assisting's a great job.
Yep.
Yeah.
I loved assisting.
Yep.
I assisted probably another 3 or 4 years here.
Yeah.
Just, when you don't have the commitments we have, in later life, it's a great job.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it is.
Really is.
And finding an assistant that you gel with, or finding a photographer that you gel with, and you know what they're about to think and what they like, and all those sorts of things.
So
and
great.
it's fun,
Yeah.
right? It's like, let's bounce out of bed and have fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's serious, but it's fun. Yeah. So
did that for three or 4 years. Maybe 3 years. And then there was a place called Gasworks. I don't know if you remember Gasworks.
Very well.
Yeah.
And that, again, was kind of a collection of studios where, younger or, let's say, junior photographers and stylists and hair and makeup artists and models would go and work there, and they would produce Maya catalogues or... and that was a great... it was great fun hanging out with a heap of people, kind of,
But
like-minded.
and a good grounding.
Great grounding, and gave you a good work ethic. You had to work quick, you had to, and you had to learn how
And
to...
you had to get on with people.
Yeah,
Right.
and this is all film, so, we all had to learn how to light properly and, get everything right in camera. that was a fantastic grounding. And so I did that for a little bit, and that kind of catapulted me into, being a freelance photographer, I guess. And just so happened that one of the studios, I'd assisted in and got on really well with was Decent Exposure in Paran. And, there was 3 guys that were running it at the time. And they said, you got a spot here and, come and shoot.
Fantastic.
And that's kind of, I've walked in there and kind of started shooting.
So what year was that, John?
I'm going to say 93.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, 93.
So when did you...
94.
When were you there?
So I walked into Decent Exposure in 2009, I think. It would have been end of 2008 maybe, or beginning of 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there a long time.
Yeah.
You were there a long time. And in 95, Kerry and I came in and we became your agent, and lots of people in Decent Exposure, and it was like this whole new thing, the Flash Place. And we were like the second agent in Australia at the time. There was one other person, and we went in there, and I remember that big round table, and we sat there and we heard everyone's story, although you didn't tell me about the Marines back then. And that was the beginning of our relationship, and then which has continued right through the years. And I do remember you as a young assistant when I'd go in there and
Not
shoot.
So young assistant,
but what's that old bat you've got assisting over there?
Now. Yeah, exactly. Who's that?
Well, there was a lot of people there, right? It was a big studio.
It was huge.
Double-story warehouse, 1,000 square metres.
And then there was the daylight studio, and then you put the kitchens in. And
I'd
then
never seen anything like it
before.
Because when I was studying in the UK, again at art college, I spent all my time in the dark room and just had an amazing time, and then left and realised I didn't know fuck all about commercial photography. And when I got back to Australia, I walked into Decent and I was just like, I have absolutely no idea. I think I told the story in last season, but I'll tell it again. And I was like sweeping floors, and Jared Barnes was like, you can sweep that up, you can put that away, you can make some coffee here. And I was like, all right. And then I was like, about a month in, I was like, what am I doing? I'm 28 years old and I'm sweeping floors, and is this the right move? And then Mike Baker was like, oi, what are you doing tomorrow? I've just had an assistant drop out. And I was like, yep, I'm not doing anything. And at the end of that day, he said, you're green, but you're good. And then he booked me for like 5 more jobs. And then I was in.
Then you were
And then I was around, and then I worked with him a lot. And then because I was just around like a bad smell, other people kept picking me up. I worked with you a couple of times, Jim. It was great. I'd never worked, it was just amazing. I just thought, wow, this is photography.
It was a really special place, It
was.
And not just for a couple of years. It went through generations of reinventing and new photographers, and then older photographers coming back, and then it's just and you'd have exhibitions there. I've still got one of your pictures, actually. It's in my bathroom. I see it every day. I love it. It's not like a toilet photograph. I just want to be clear about that. But it's a beautiful piece of art in my beautiful bathroom.
I've got Shepherd Fairleys in my bathroom, so I'm all about putting artwork in.
I'll take a picture of it and send it to you. But it was always reinventing itself. I remember back in the days when there was the cowhide floors, and Rod was in there, and then everything changed, and then you were really clever about how you divided it all, and then there was the daylight studio, and it was all going on. So within all of that, John, how did you find yourself in getting work as a photographer and finding a style? Did you find a style? Did you continue down the fashion road with the one lens at f.2.8? I can get that.
No, I learned that pretty quickly.
Yeah. So how did you evolve with your work?
How did I evolve? Well, I just
evolved?
When you first start out, you'll shoot anything. And I'd shoot weddings at the weekend, and then I'd, pick up little bits and pieces. And because Decent Exposure, before I started running Decent Exposure, I was just one of the kind of junior photographers there. You'd pick up little scraps here and there, and from that, I sort of started to kind of find a bit of a footing. There was a couple of friends that I had from outside. Well, they were in the industry, but I didn't meet them through the industry. They were already friends, but they, there was a guy that started his graphic design company. There was another friend of mine that was an art director.
Is that Boyd?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they sort of slowly,
I remember that.
Feeding me bits and pieces, and you just kind of build it up, and,
The importance of relationships.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I've never really I've never said, this is the direction I'm going in. It's always been a little bit of falling into place. And I think for me, the trick is knowing when it's the right place or the right fit, or it's about relationships and, gelling with people and collaborating with people.
Thank you.
I know that sounds cliche.
No, well, that's why I mentioned it before. It's so important. And I think it's about the kind of friendships that you create that think, I'm going to talk to Jon about this because he's going to have a really different take on it. And it's about that responsibility that you have as a photographer to make my idea better, right? You're not that photographer, nor have you ever been, that just shoots what you're told. I think you've always been, I'll shoot what I'm told, but I'm also going to add a bit of Jon to it.
Which gets you in trouble now and again.
It does. But I remember 80, a photographer that we used to work with a long time ago, he'd always shoot what he was told, and then he'd shoot what he wanted to.
Yep.
And then he'd show it. But I think you've always had that ability to find people that want to work with you because of how you can make that idea better.
Thank you.
And I think that's a really important thing as a photographer, because you don't go into it just to be doing what you're told, do you?
No, definitely not.
Another question, and then you can talk, Harriet. I just heard you take it, and then I heard you take a deep breath.
I have to.
You go. I'll write mine down, and you go now. Go. I'm writing mine down.
So how did you pivot into running the studio then? Was that like a bit of opportunity that came up for you, or did you say, I want to take a bit more of a serious kind of role in the running of this place?
When I was assisting there, I was, again, maybe it is my work ethic, I don't know, but I was pretty full on. I was like you, when I first walked in, I was sweeping floors and making coffees and who needs this, and, and I sort of, picked up, Jim McFarlane gave me a job, and then someone else gave me a job, and then all of a sudden I'm working with Rod Barkley, who was sort of top of the tree, and, I kind of got on with everyone there. And it was a bit of a party studio as well, and I can do that.
Tick. I think we all could do that.
And so I was sort of front and centre for a little bit. And at that same time, there was 3 photographers that were running it. 2 of them bailed. One of them went overseas, and the other one, I think, either retired or... and so Rod was on his own. Or not on his own, but, he was running it on his own. And so he approached me. Oh. We were quite good mates by that stage, as well as being, work colleagues. And, it kind of just evolved. Yeah. And at that time, Decent Exposure was I felt was very tired and very, a bit old. It needed a refresh. Yeah. And so we came to an agreement where I naively chucked a heap of money at it and kind of did this renovation on it.
But it was fantastic.
It was great. It was awesome. And you know what? The actual process of doing that was, everyone pitched in, and, we really came together, that particular group of photographers and assistants at
because
the
you
time.
had a really long lease on it, the property, didn't you?
Well, as it happened, we didn't.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but they would only ever give us 3 years.
Oh, okay. But you had it for like 25 years or something. Yeah, okay. I didn't know it was going 3 to 3. I thought it was
yeah,
like,
right.
Okay.
Nor did I.
Oops.
And so, yes. So when Rod sort of approached me, and then I said, okay, well, I will come in, but I want to do this. He was like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, amazing.
And so the renovation took best part of a year.
Yeah.
And we actually, it was a double story. So we actually kind of closed off one floor and everyone shot upstairs, and then we
reversed it.
And we did a lot of it ourselves. Like everyone was just all in.
Yeah.
And as I say, a great bunch of photographers and assistants.
What an amazing project.
Yeah, it was. It was fantastic.
I think that you get to, well, not that, into your career, and you just think, actually, along the way, some things make money, some things don't, but actually it's the experiences. And, having something like that where you're working together with a whole lot of people doing in the thing that you love, but also outside of it as well, like building and, creating, and like, how great.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was. And you're right, I learned a lot. You learn how to paint pretty quick.
Yeah.
You learn how to, build stuff.
Yeah.
And, so that was fantastic. And then I kind of remember thinking, okay, we've launched. Where's the work? We had a party and there was 1,500 people there, and I'm like, great, surely the phones will start ringing soon.
And the floors didn't break.
And
was there really 1,500 people there? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It was crazy.
So what year was this
Crazy. I'm going to say 99.
then? Wow.
Oh, don't look at me. I remember arriving at the mall. I never remember leaving. But I wouldn't have been there in 99, so I must be talking about another one.
Maybe 2000s. Early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Wow, amazing.
You arrived, but you never left. That's it.
And I did. So then all of a sudden I'm running a studio. Which I did find hard.
Yeah.
I found that bit hard.
Yeah.
I found I just wanted to be a photographer. I just wanted a really good studio to shoot out of. And all of a sudden, I've got to worry about, people
Bills
asking me where the toilet roll is. And, we've run out of milk, and, so I did.
You became a mother.
Yeah. I kind of became a kindergarten teacher. That's how I kind of felt. So not that, I was very careful not to let it, hopefully, not affect my career, which was being a photographer, because a studio that size doesn't make any money.
Yeah.
It's not like a business that I can
like
be a
Holborn,
studio manager and just kind of sit back and half the time, you were lucky if you could pay the rent.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a balancing act, and I don't think I got it right all the time.
Yeah.
But then I don't think I was bad at it, but it wasn't me. It wasn't.
Was Rod still part
He
of it?
was,
Because
but he was sort of
out.
slowing down,
Yeah.
and he always sort of took a back seat, And I was busy as well. I was quite a busy photographer, so I was always there. That was the other thing, whereas he was sort of slowing down, so he wasn't always there. But we had a great relationship, And then he retired, and so then I kind of was on my own for a bit. And then my partner Claire kind of helped out and kind of, started sort of running it a bit. And then, of course, we had the COVID years.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get on to the COVID years.
Let's not.
Yeah. I hate the COVID years. We're not allowed to say the word pivot because I get triggered by it. I was just wanting to talk about the art side of your photography, because I was talking about my bathroom art. Do you still do that, John?
I do.
And how important is that? And why haven't you had an exhibition lately?
I haven't had an exhibition.
Calling you out
I'm
on
actually
it, baby.
working on an exhibition at the moment.
Excellent.
Yeah, I do think it's important, and
Why?
And it's something that I've neglected, and it's something that I want to get back to and need to get back to
And
for
why
myself.
why do you think you've neglected it? Is it a time management thing?
You've
Life?
got kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids,
So it's
studio, commercial, paying the bills.
And this is where
yeah.
I'm going with it, because we've had a big conversation when in our first episode about us and about life. Like, and you look at where you are at this point in your life, and what is it that you can and you can't do. And I think people that are listening to this podcast, it's important to understand that it's not always roses, right? We have great highs and we have great lows, and it's just about managing how things go. But the kids are growing up now, and you're thinking of an exhibition again, because they were so much fun,
Yeah, totally. An idea, and then, okay, well, let's have an exhibition. And,
Yes.
And I've never, it's always been at my premise, always at the studio, or I've had some group showings and stuff, but I've never got into that art space where I'm exhibiting.
Yeah, you've just sort of gone, I'm going out and shoot a whole lot of stuff, and I'm going to have an exhibition and a
Yeah.
party. And that was a very different way of exhibiting your work, but it was not so much about your work. This is my impression of it. It was about, and they were affordable, like they were affordable, but it was about sense of community. And it was about that network and having a party and a good time, and showing people, hey, this is what else I can do. And
Definitely.
which is so important, that we lost that in COVID because we couldn't do it. So now we're at COVID. And we give 30 seconds, go. In 3 words.
Yeah, well, so I'm alone in my studio because
No one else can come in.
The phones aren't ringing.
and it's a big, expensive studio brand, so I had to get out like quick sticks, and to be fair, the landlord kind of was okay, and I managed to kind of get out. I won't say unscathed, but not. It could have been awful.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? And I looked at a couple of sort of shared studios, and I was like, no, my shared studio days are done.
It's like
So
a
I
share
thought-
house.
I thought I'll just put my gear in storage and go off, and when someone books me, I'll get it out of storage and go wherever they tell me to. And I thought, that didn't sound great either. And storage was so expensive. I was like, wow. So I sort of started looking around for smaller spaces, and I came across one in Hyatt, or we came across one in Hyatt, and which is now Studio Claire, which is kind of my base now. We do hire it out to other, like Claire, my partner, runs it and hires it out to different photographers, but it's not a hire studio per se.
But
it's my
different.
base. It's my base.
It's beautiful space.
It's great.
And I love the outdoor area
Yeah.
and the windows, and there's so many
It's
different
kind
areas.
of a bit like Decent.
It is.
Mini Decent.
It is, yeah.
And, at first I was like, I looked in Abbotsford and Collingwood. And I looked everywhere. And I thought, no, I don't want to be travelling the other side of town every day. And so one of my fears was that, maybe I'm a bit far out. Maybe people won't
I must admit,
come out there.
when I first heard about it, I was going, that's curious, but it's near home, and okay, let's see, it'll be interesting. But my goodness,
Hasn't
affected it at all.
Others might say it has, but, all of a sudden you find out that there's all these clients Bayside that are like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, finally, a studio over our side of town.
And there's parking and,
Yeah, absolutely.
and so, it's kicking along okay.
Oh, well, look, it's fantastic. And I've been to the studio, and it's a really beautiful layout. It's been really cleverly designed and thoughtful, and there's so many different spaces that you can use within it. I want to talk a little bit more about your work, moving from being a stills photographer into TV commercials. So let's talk about that. How did that transition happen?
Well, I've always loved films, so I kind of always wanted to kind of do something. And I got the opportunity to go to India and shoot a documentary with a group of my friends who were playing cricket over there. So it's kind of a a venture, really. It wasn't we're going to make a documentary. But Boyd Hicklin, one of my friends, is a director and an art director, he sort of said, "Should we go and follow these guys around?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounds like a blast," which it was.
Let me think about that.
Yes, please.
And I had no idea what I was doing. But
So when was this? What year?
this would be 2001.
See, but it never stops you. It's a bit like the first season. We had no idea what we were doing with this either. So it's great. Good.
Yeah.
And Boyd had that trust in you as well, right?
And we didn't know what would happen to it, but it became a feature-length documentary, and it got shown at festivals, and then eventually I think SBS bought it, or someone bought it.
What's it called, John?
Save Your Legs. Excuse me. We went to it actually got made into a drama feature film in, I don't know, can't remember what year that was. That would have been about 2016, 17, I think. And I didn't shoot that one, but I was second unit DOP on that. So got to shoot that.
And so are you doing, what's your mixture of work these days? Is it photography, stills and DOPing?
Yeah.
Half-half?
Yeah, pretty much. I'd say probably, I'd sort of say 50-50, but I think stills is probably, still.
And is there a love for both? Do you have,
totally,
just
totally.
There's no like favoritism.
They're quite different disciplines.
Yeah.
And the thing about being a stills photographer is you are the director, you are the DOP, you light it, you build it, it's all you. Whereas being a DOP, you're part of a team and there's lots of people around you and people are putting lights up for you and setting stuff up for you, which is probably why I can direct as well, because that probably comes from, as a stills photographer, you've got to direct people.
You got to, yeah.
So I do a little bit of directing DOPing, and I do a little bit of DOPing, and I do quite a lot of stills.
And do you, how important is your crew around you? Do you choose your crew, or is it always the same people, or do you have a list of people that you can approach to?
For the motion side of things, I've got my favourites, definitely.
And where are they freelance, or do you go through?
Yeah.
I think that's also really important for listeners to understand that these days we're dealing so much with, my assistant register on the Brownbill effect, not to plug it, but I've just done it. We're looking at assistants, but we're also looking at motion assistants as well, and it can be the same, but it could also be quite different skill sets. But don't be frightened. If motion is something that you're really interested in as a young photographer, try it all, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's such a natural progression for a stills photographer if they have that way about them to move into moving imagery, right?
Definitely. I would absolutely recommend that.
We are at the end of our episode, John.
Really?
I know.
I've got so much more to say.
I know.
We've talked for 45 minutes.
I know. And we could keep on going because you've just obviously had such an incredible career and done so many different things, and it's just so interesting to hear you talk about it all. So what does the future hold, John? What do you think it holds for photography?
For photography or for me?
Well, for both.
Well, the future looks pretty bleak, doesn't it? I don't think photography's got anything to worry about.
Cut.
I think photography's fine. It's the future. No.
It's like a horse in a hospital.
It's a bit of a, I guess, a glass half empty, glass half full kind of.
Yeah.
Look, it's not getting easier to be a commercial photographer. It's very competitive.
Yeah.
When I started out, I think there was probably 2 or 3 colleges in Melbourne knocking out maybe 30 kids a year.
Yeah.
There are countless colleges and courses, plus online courses, and they're knocking out hundreds of photographers. Plus, anyone with a camera can call themselves a photographer, right?
And now people can shoot campaigns with their iPhones.
But, there's also a thirst for imagery and a thirst for content. So there's still a lot of work around. And there's a lot of crap out there, but there's also a lot of great work. So, I think, and think we might have touched upon this, but the trick is finding your place in it, and doing what you love, and finding people to gel with, to collaborate with, that will go along that journey with you.
And it gets back to that, we talk about it constantly, is about that building of relationships. And you and Boyd are a really special team. You know, you've been together right from the beginning. I still bump into Boyd. We sort of see each other at exhibition and go, oh, yeah, here you go. And for him to believe in you and you to believe in him, it's those sorts of relationships that take you right through your career. And for those young people that are listening, you know, it's never too early to start, even when you're in first year, to start building relationships and people that you can collaborate. And Harriet, you talk about collaboration in your work and everything that we do, and we're collaborating today, and you and I collaborating. And I think that's so important, and that part of the future is, where does that sit? Like, as far as when people start retiring and the people that used to employ you aren't there anymore and they move out of the industry and having to find new people, how's that for you?
Well, let's hope relationships are still kind of paramount, because otherwise AI is going to come in and smash it to bits, right? So I do believe that that's a big part of it. There's something about photography and filmmaking from the past that I do miss a little bit. You look at those Magnum photographers, and those pictures tell so many stories. These days, it's a bit disposable. It's a bit, and you can see everything. Like, people are shooting everywhere, so you see a lot of stuff. But I think the really good ones and the really great work really stand out, and that's kind of. I'm still learning. I'm still striving to be a better photographer, better filmmaker. And you try and learn a bit every day, So, I don't know. I think it's good that, everyone can take photos.
Okay, so in 5 words or less, the future of photography.
Future of commercial photography or photography?
Commercial photography, let's say.
Future of commercial photography.
It's a tricky one. No, you don't have to do 5 words. That was just me being an arse.
Hold on for your life.
Like you just finish
what a way to end. We're going on the ride, and that's a wrap. Oh, that's perfect. Oh. No, I was just being an arse saying that, but I think that's kind of a really interesting place to end. I think you make it what you want it to be, right? Yeah. And it
That'll
will be
do.
Fucking great whatever you do. Jono, thank you so much for reliving your illustrious life and photography, and we can't wait to see the future. And I'm going to hold you to that exhibition because I want another piece of toilet art, right? So
coming your way.
Coming my way. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Harriet, see you next time.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, wasn't that another fantastic episode?
So much fun.
And Harry, none of this is possible without the fantastic help we've had from, take it away,
Shaquille Raymond, what a rock star audio engineer.
I like that. Martin Stevens, my husband, for his guitar prowess on the intros and outros. And Shani Power, who is doing all of the behind-the-scenes photos and design of everything to do with the Instagram posts. Thank you all so very much to help us get our podcast out.
We'll see you on the next one.
We will. It's been wonderful, Harry. Thanks, darling. Bye-bye.
Bye.